Have you ever looked at the person you loved most and wondered if everything you believed was a lie? I have. My name is Olivia. For 10 years, I believed my husband and I had the kind of marriage people dreamed about. We laughed together. We built a home together. We made promises about growing old together. Then one ordinary evening, one message on his phone changed everything. At least, that's what I believed. This is the story of how I almost lost my marriage, and how the truth gave us a second chance. When I married Ethan, we had almost nothing. Our first apartment was tiny. The kitchen was barely big enough for 2 people. The sofa was old and secondhand. But every night we laughed while cooking dinner together, and somehow that little apartment felt like a palace. We promised each other one thing. No matter what happens, we'll always tell each other the truth. For years, we kept that promise. As Ethan's architecture business grew, life became busier. He worked longer hours. Business trips became more frequent. Phone calls interrupted dinner. Sometimes, he came home after I had already fallen asleep. I told myself it was only temporary. He was working hard for our future. Still, I couldn't ignore the distance growing between us. The little conversations became shorter. The hugs became less frequent. The silence became louder. One Friday evening, Ethan left his phone on the kitchen counter while taking a shower. I wasn't trying to spy. Then a notification appeared. I can't stop thinking about last night. The message was from a woman named Claire. My heart dropped. My hands began shaking. Every terrible thought filled my mind. When Ethan walked back into the room, I simply held up the phone. "Who is Claire?" The color drained from his face. He didn't answer immediately. That silence hurt more than any words could have. I packed a suitcase that same night. He kept asking me to stay. "Please, let me explain." But I couldn't listen. Every explanation sounded like another excuse. I moved into my sister's house. For the first time since our wedding, I slept without my husband beside me. The loneliness was unbearable. Over the following weeks, Ethan called almost every day. Sometimes I answered. Most of the time, I couldn't. One afternoon, he sent a letter instead of another text. Inside was only one sentence. "Please let me tell you the whole truth before you decide our future." Something about those words felt different, so I agreed to meet him. We met at the little cafe where we had our first date. He looked exhausted. Not angry, not defensive, just heartbroken. Before speaking, he placed a folder on the table. Inside were architectural drawings, charity documents, and photographs. Then he began explaining. Claire wasn't his girlfriend. She was the director of a charity that built homes for families who had lost everything in a flood. For months, Ethan had secretly been volunteering his weekends, designing free housing projects. He wanted to surprise me on our 10th wedding anniversary by showing me the first completed homes. The message I had seen had been sent after the charity's opening celebration. Claire's full message actually read, "I can't stop thinking about last night. The families finally have safe homes because of your hard work. Thank you for believing in this project." I had only seen the first line. I stared at the papers in silence. Every receipt, every blueprint, every photograph. Everything matched. He hadn't been hiding an affair. He had been hiding a surprise. Tears rolled down my face. I should have listened. He gently reached across the table, and I should never have kept such a big secret. From my wife. For the first time in weeks, we both admitted our mistakes. Not just mine. Not just his. Ours. We spent hours talking. Really talking. About work, stress, loneliness. The distance that had slowly grown between us without either of us noticing. We realized that trust isn't only about honesty. It's also about communication. Love cannot survive on assumptions. It survives on conversations. A month later, Ethan took me to the charity's newest neighborhood. Children were playing safely outside their new homes. Parents smiled as they welcomed us. One elderly woman hugged Ethan and said, "You gave us hope." Then she turned to me. "You must be very proud of your husband." I smiled through tears. I am. More than she could ever imagine. On our 10th anniversary, Ethan surprised me one final time. He took me back to our very first apartment. The building had been renovated, but our old unit was still there. He unlocked the door. Inside, he had recreated our tiny living room. The same style of sofa, the same little dining table, even our old coffee mugs. He laughed and said, "I wanted to remind us where our story really began." I hugged him tighter than I ever had before, because I realized something. A perfect marriage isn't one without storms. It's one where two people keep choosing each other after the storm has passed. Today, whenever someone asks us the secret to a happy marriage, we never say, never argue. We never say, never make mistakes. Instead, we say this: never let assumptions speak louder than honest conversations. Ask the difficult questions. Listen to the answers. Protect your trust every single day. Because sometimes the story you fear the most isn't the truth at all. And sometimes one conversation can save a lifetime of love. Thank you for listening. If this story touched your heart, remember that real love isn't about never facing challenges. It's about finding your way back to each other, again and again. Please like, comment, and subscribe to this channel to see more heart-touching story. See you in the next video.